There is a shift that few people notice, and it begins exactly when we decide to stop caring about what we can't control. It seems simple, maybe even a bit irresponsible, but it's liberating. Michel de Montaigne, a 16th century thinker, once said, "True freedom is born when we free ourselves from the weight of others' expectations." This video won't promise you magic formulas or self-help manuals. Instead, it invites you to look inward, question patterns, and most importantly, let go of what holds you back. You'll discover why stopping the need to please might be the first step to truly living. Let's dive into the practical and surprisingly relevant philosophy of Montaigne, and maybe, just maybe, you'll finish this video feeling lighter than when you started. It doesn't take much effort to realize that the pursuit of perfection is, in fact, a trap disguised as a virtue. The human being, in its essence, is made of cracks, and it's those imperfections that make us real. Montaigne, by stating that recognizing our flaws makes us freer, touched on one of the greatest truths of existence. It's only possible to be whole when we accept being incomplete. Life, when seen without filters, shows us that genuine learning hides in mistakes, stumbles, and doubt. And let's be honest, whoever has never made a big mistake can cast the first stone, preferably very gently. Accepting your own imperfection is not an invitation to mediocrity, but an act of courage. It's acknowledging that not every day will be productive, not every choice will be the best one, and that it's okay. Life is not a polished resume, but a scribbled journal with honest notes. It's in the almost got it right that lives the charm of trying again. And when you understand that, the pressure vanishes like steam. Those who accept themselves fully no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Imperfection has something divine about it because it brings us closer to one another. Perfection pushes away, creates distance, raises unreachable expectations. Failure, on the other hand, brings people together, invites acceptance, listening, and genuine exchange. When someone shows their vulnerability, they make room for real connections. And maybe, just maybe, the true meaning of life starts right there, the moment we stop pretending we figured it all out. Living under the constant weight of others' eyes is like trying to run with chains on your feet. True freedom only begins when you break the bond with the need to please. Other people's opinions, no matter how loud, are still just an external echo, and an echo never dictates the original sound. When someone chooses to live according to their own inner compass, they find out that peace doesn't lie in applause, but in the silence of knowing oneself. And let me tell you, that silence is precious. Criticism often says more about the critic than the one being criticized. Some people project their insecurities onto others as a way to ease their own pain. That's why learning to listen without absorbing is a liberating skill. It's not arrogance, it's discernment. Living by others' expectations is a shortcut to frustration. Whoever lives trying to fit in will, sooner or later, lose sight of themselves. At the end of the day, what really matters is being able to lay your head on the pillow and feel that you lived according to what you believe. No one carries the burden of someone else's mistakes, only their own. That's why it's better to fail following your own heart than to succeed living a script that wasn't even written by you. Other people's opinions can be heard, but should never steer the wheel of your life. There is something profoundly wise in someone who decides to stop fighting life. Living according to nature doesn't mean moving to a cabin in the woods, but understanding that everything has its own rhythm, and not everything is under our control. Trying to control what isn't up to us is like yelling at the wind hoping it'll change direction. The secret is to observe, accept, and act when the time is truly right. Nature isn't in a rush, but everything in it happens. A tree doesn't hurry to bear fruit, and a river doesn't question why it has to curve around rocks. Life, when it flows, looks like that, a constant movement but without anxiety. Many anxieties come from trying to force answers, rush cycles, anticipate pain. But the truth is, everything has its time, and respecting that time is an act of wisdom. Living in harmony with what's natural also means respecting your own limits. Sleeping when the body asks, being silent when the mind screams, stopping when the spirit feels heavy. Instead of pushing through with unrealistic goals or unreachable standards, it's smarter to listen to inner signals. They're like compasses we forgot to consult. Living naturally is also living more lightly. That doesn't mean passivity or resignation, but rather alignment. Acting consciously without rushing the timing of things. Planting what you can, watering what you love, and accepting that not everything blooms in the season we want. A life that flows with nature may have less control, it's true, but it has much more peace. And peace, oh, that's worth every second of waiting. Doubt is to thought what wind is to fire. It can extinguish fragile certainties or strengthen deep truths. Montaigne saw doubt not as a weakness, but as a sign of intelligence and balance. Those who doubt allow themselves to observe more, listen better, and reflect before acting. And let's be honest, in a world where everyone wants to be right, the humility of someone who admits they don't know is a rare and powerful form of wisdom. Certainty blinds while doubt enlightens. When someone clings too tightly to a single answer, they risk closing the windows of the mind. But those who cultivate doubt build bridges instead of walls. Doubting doesn't mean freezing, it means investigating, questioning, seeking other perspectives. It's this process that leads to self-knowledge, empathy, and continuous growth. Instead of saying, "This is how it is," how about asking, "What if it's different?" In practice, exercising the value of doubt is simple and transformative. Instead of reacting automatically, pause for a second. In a conflict, try to understand the other side without rushing to respond. Even question your own habits. Does this still make sense to me? That unpretentious curiosity is what fuels true growth. After all, no one learns through rigidity, we learn through the flexibility of those who allow themselves to reconsider. As Montaigne himself said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to yourself. And to do that, you must first know how to doubt what the world told you should be." Doubt sets you free. It dismantles pre-made speeches, drives away fanaticism, and makes room for something more authentic. Perhaps there's no greater sign of maturity than being able to live well even without having all the answers. Looking inward is no easy task. It takes courage, time, and a certain willingness to face what we don't always want to see. But it's in that silent dive where the most meaningful answers live. Self-knowledge isn't about finding an ideal version of yourself, but understanding who you truly are. And from there, making more conscious, lighter choices, aligned with your own truth. There is no true wisdom without that first step, knowing yourself. Those who live only looking outward end up imitating, competing, reacting. But those who look inward understand their limits and strengths, and therefore act with more calmness. It's not about isolating yourself, but about building a solid foundation before stepping out into the world. You can only truly meet another once you've met yourself. There are many ways to cultivate this self-knowledge. Writing a journal, going to therapy, observing your own behavioral patterns, reading thought-provoking authors like Viktor Frankl, Carl Jung, or even Rubem Alves with his philosophical poetry. The important thing is to create moments of pause, where inner listening becomes possible. Because in the noise of the world, the inner voice is often the only one that knows the way. And when that path starts to be walked, something shifts. Life stops being a sequence of reactions and becomes an expression of who you choose to be. Crises still arise, of course, but now they come with understanding. And with that, the journey stops being an escape and becomes a return home within to what was always there, just waiting to be noticed. Constant comparison is like running a marathon on a treadmill. You get tired, worn out, but don't move forward. Comparison is a silent thief of joy. It makes us forget that every person has their own time, their own story, and their own struggles. When you stop measuring your life by someone else's ruler, existence becomes lighter, more truthful, and deeply freeing. The root of comparison is almost always insecurity. And that insecurity is fed by a world that glorifies achievements and results, but rarely shows the behind the scenes, the failures, the bad days. It's easy to look at someone else's success and feel small, but we almost never know what that success cost. That's why comparing yourself is unfair, especially when it's based on appearances. Breaking this toxic habit can start with something simple: acknowledging your own achievements no matter how small they seem. Celebrating personal progress, even if it's not social media worthy. Valuing what you have today without dismissing what's still to come. This kind of practice rebuilds self-esteem in a solid, inside-out way. And strong self-esteem doesn't get shaken by someone else's temporary shine. When comparison goes silent, space for authenticity emerges. A person stops being someone else's shadow and becomes a light on their own path. And this isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a fact. Everyone has their own pace, their own choices, their own lessons. The day you truly understand this, a peace is born that no longer depends on winning or impressing. And that peace, my friend, is worth more than any medal. The true art of living might lie in the things that cost nothing. A warm coffee on a cold morning, an unhurried conversation, the sound of rain on the window. It's in these details that life reveals itself as generous. Simplicity, far from being a synonym for lack, is a state of mind. It's knowing how to see richness where others only see routine. Those who learn to value the little things discover that, deep down, they never needed much. Living simply means choosing what's essential and letting go of the excess, of objects, expectations, noise. It's knowing that not every space needs to be filled, not in your home, nor in your schedule. In fact, silence is also a luxury, one of the most underrated. The rush, the accumulation, and the constant need for more pull us away from what truly matters. And curiously, the more we accumulate, the harder it is to feel light. Adopting simplicity as a philosophy also involves letting go of status. It's not about living poorly but living with purpose. Choosing more wisely what you consume, who you spend time with, where you invest your time. Reading good books, practicing manual hobbies, or even cooking slowly, all of this is a return to what is human, present, and real. It's a form of resistance to the world's frantic pace. Simplicity is a kind of elegance that doesn't demand attention, it's just felt. And once you start seeing beauty in the ordinary, life changes color. It becomes lighter, more honest, more alive. Because true abundance isn't having everything, but realizing that what you already have might be more than enough. Failing, as unpleasant as it may seem, is an inevitable part of human existence. Only those who try make mistakes, and only those who stand up fall down. The point isn't to avoid failure, but to learn how to handle it without sinking into guilt or shame. When we face our stumbles lightly, they stop being monsters and become teachers. And over time, we notice that it was precisely those falls that shaped the strongest parts of the soul. Lightness doesn't come from denying mistakes, but from accepting that they're part of the process. It's being able to laugh at yourself, acknowledge your exaggerations, readjust your path, and keep moving. This ability to not dramatize everything is a rare and freeing superpower. Because if every failure is treated like a tragedy, life becomes a minefield. But when viewed with humility and humor, the road becomes more doable, more human. Developing this lightness involves practicing self-compassion. Instead of mentally repeating, "I'm a failure," replace it with, "That was tough, but I'm still here." It's a subtle but powerful shift. Avoiding cruel self-criticism is essential for maintaining a healthy mind. And let's be real, no one gets through life unscathed. So why demand unattainable perfection from yourself? It's fairer to stumble and laugh than to pretend you're immune to mistakes. In the end, failure is just a reminder that we're alive, trying, learning. It teaches us what success often hides. And when we can look back and laugh at what once made us cry, we realize we've won. Not because we didn't mess up, but because we didn't let the mess-ups define us. And that, in itself, is a major victory. Living in the now seems simple, but it's possibly one of the biggest challenges of modern life. The restless mind is always jumping between the past that's gone and the future that hasn't arrived. The present, poor thing, gets squeezed between two times we can't touch. But it's exactly where life happens. Taking a deep breath, feeling the moment, and being fully present is a way of being that transforms everything around. When you inhabit the present, every detail becomes intense. The taste of food, the sound of laughter, the touch of the wind, everything feels more alive. Montaigne invites us into this state of mindfulness, not as a rule but as a call to awareness. Anxiety about what's to come or the grip of what's already happened blinds us to what we have right now. And interestingly, the now is almost always kinder than we imagined. A good way to cultivate this presence is to slow down. Go for a walk and observe your surroundings, eat without distractions, listen to someone with real attention. These are simple actions, but they anchor us in the moment. And the more you live in the now, the less you depend on perfect futures or idealized pasts to feel content. Happiness stops being a promise and becomes an experience. The now is all that truly exists. The rest is projection. And when you genuinely understand that, time stops being an enemy. The past becomes a teacher, the future becomes a possibility, and the present becomes home. A home where life pulses in full intensity, and where, perhaps, the true meaning begins to unfold. Being enough for yourself doesn't mean living in isolation, but finding within you what no one else can fill. It's knowing that your peace shouldn't depend on someone else's mood, that your worth shouldn't fluctuate with applause or criticism. Of course, connections matter, we are social beings. But there's a difference between sharing life with someone and needing someone to validate you to feel complete. Emotional autonomy is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but is built as you learn to listen to yourself, respect yourself, and stand on your own feet. It's realizing that you can be alone and still be okay. That silences aren't empty, but spaces for reconnection. And that solitude, when well lived, can be richer company than many noisy presences. Being enough for yourself is not arrogance, it's maturity. It's the understanding that no compliment will fill the void left by low self-esteem, and no company will cure the absence of your own self. For many, this is a painful lesson. After all, we've been taught to seek outside what has always been inside. But when that switch flips, something lights up. The freedom to live without begging for affection, without pleading for attention, without losing yourself in the pursuit of acceptance. And paradoxically, it's in that state of wholeness that the healthiest bonds become possible. When you no longer expect others to provide what you've already found in yourself, Relationships stop being crutches and become dances. Each person with their own steps, together by choice, not by neediness. And it's in that dance, light and sincere, that life finds a new rhythm. A rhythm that pulses from the inside out. What Montaigne teaches us is not just philosophy, it's emotional survival. Stopping caring about what isn't up to you isn't coldness, it's intelligence. It's the beginning of a lighter, more honest, more authentic life. When you understand that you don't need anyone's validation to exist in peace, you begin to walk with more confidence. And that's when everything changes. Because what slows you down isn't the world, it's the fear of being who you are. So, if this content stirred something in you, carry this reflection with care. Question more, demand less, and allow yourself to be incomplete, because maybe, in that space between what you expected and what life gives you, lies exactly what you need. And remember, sometimes, everything starts to go right when you simply stop trying to get everything right all the time. If you enjoyed this perspective and want to keep reflecting with me, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's a lot more content like this coming your way.